Hey everyone, Andy from RagePrint here, and today this is not a 3D printing video. I'm going to be working on R2's leg. Now, I've mentioned several times in several videos that R2 is a bit wobbly at the moment. It's this leg here that's the culprit. I know what the problem is. The back wall of the leg here is pulling away from the inner ribs of the leg itself. In fact, during the Rise of Skywalker premiere, he very nearly lost his leg, and I've attempted to repair it several times. But now we're going to go for the extreme version, which is heat gun. Pretty much heat gun. So yeah, why don't you join me and see if we can fix this leg. Ooh, see if we can fix that leg. Okay, so having a look at the inside of R2's leg, I've taken the cap off, the hub cap. So you can see that's how you can see I've already tried to fix the leg problem. Basically, this back wall is pulling away from these ribs. Now, that's not supposed to be happening, but yeah, here we are. I already have tried to give it a go. But you can see here there's a massive gap, still a bit of a bulge. So I just need to undo the wing nuts. I'm going to take the leg off, and then we'll have another look. Okay, so we've got the leg off. Let's have another look inside. You can see cracks here. This is the back. Oh, interestingly, that's how we're keeping R2 upright. So anyway, let me just get this off. Take that off. Let's take these off as well while we're at it. The advantage of having everything magnetised. So as you can see, my R2 is a hybrid. So it's a styrene Everett frame. These are Mr. Badley horseshoes and Mr. Badley booster covers. JD Par or resin booster struts. And because it's a Mr. Badley booster cover, I sort of bodged together a way of magnetising it to an Everett frame. I think I'm going to have to take this off in a minute anyway, but let's have a look at the back. So you can see here there's a split, and it's actually, I don't know how well that's up on camera, that's actually bumpy. And it's quite hard to tell on camera, but it's, you know, you can see there's a massive gap there. So I'm going to take the hub off, and then we'll see what it's looking like. Right, so here we go. Got the hub off and the horseshoe. So this is the patch I tried to put on the last time. So it's on. You know, that's solid, but you can still see there's a bump, and that's the problem. That's what's causing the wobble. I need to get this flat. I mean, it's the cracks I can deal with after it's flat. I just need to get it flat again. The question is, how? I'm tempted to use heat. I just try and heat it back into place and then just crush it flat. Get some wood and some wood do it. Wood do it. Yeah, some wood and some clamps. I think that might do it, as long as there's a heat and pressure applied to it. So we'll give it a go, see what happens. I've heated it up. I've got a bit of wood, wood side down, not the melamine side down, so it doesn't melt, and clamped it down. I've tried to put as much pressure as possible. You can see it's still bumpy, but I think it's just going to be a case of heating it, clamping it, letting it cool, heat it, clamp it, let it cool, and then hopefully we'll get somewhere. I might even have to heat it from the other side while it's clamped and just put more pressure in that way, but we'll see. Right, so this is the third round of clamping, heating and clamping. I've added this one on, so it gives a bit more pressure. Unfortunately, I can't really get another one on there to give it equal amounts of pressure. I think it's making a difference. I mean, that certainly looks flatter, or starting to look flatter. Not so convinced about this side, but I guess I can just work my way down. I keep trying to tighten it up every so often just to make sure it stays flat. And yeah, I think it's getting there. I'll have to try putting that on and see how flat it is against it, really. That's assuming that's actually still flat anymore, but we'll see. Yeah, so I'll let this cool and then we'll go through the process a couple more times. Okay, so I've flattened it out as much as I can. It seems to be sitting flatter. Yeah, there's no... I mean, the rocking seems to be coming from the leg itself, rather, sorry, the foot rather than the leg. I can see places where the plastics come away from the ribbing. So what I'm going to do now is very carefully put some Plasti-Weld around these joints like I did before when I originally built this, especially around these welds here, because this is where the problem started. And I put this washer in last time I tried fixing it, so hopefully that's going to help. And then I'll put that back on along with those and clamp it down with the glue, which should hopefully hold it in place. And I might have to have another go with a heat gun, but we'll see. Let's try the glue first. But I think it's looking better. I tried putting the hub against it and it was rocking a little bit. That's before the last round of heat gun. So let's try sticking this back together and around these edges, so we've got something to, something to glue back to rather than just moving away again. And then yeah, we'll report back. Okay, quick update. So I glued it back together as it would have originally been glued. Set it up like this. I left it for a couple of hours. I then released it. It was looking a lot better. I've then reheated it back up because there's still that slight bulge. I've reheated it, clamped it all back down again as tight as I can, and now I've got two pieces of wood either side to equal amount of pressure, or as equal as I can get it. I'm going to leave that for a few hours, more than likely overnight, as it's now 8 o'clock at night. So it's got all night to sit in that position. And then hopefully when I put that back on, there won't be much of a wobble. I'm now wondering if the wobble is actually in here as well now. I wonder if one of the bolts is sticking out. Doesn't look like it. I'll check that. I'll check on the flat circle. Well, that's fairly flat, but I'll check on another flat circle, see if there actually is any wobble there, see if there's anything I can do there. But it is looking better. As I said, there is still a bit of a wobble, but it is a lot better. We'll leave it overnight, see how it goes, and then hopefully we can put R2's leg back on, because he's looking a little unhappy, headless and legless. Right, thanks for now. Okay, so I left it overnight, and I've taken the boards off, and that feels a lot flatter. I've just had to re-drill a couple of the holes because where I've been heating it, the plastic sort of melted, but that was kind of the idea. I wanted it to melt to sort of flatten back out. This started to split along the skins here. It was already splitting anyway, but I'm going to fill these in with putty. Most of it's not going to be visible because of when that goes back on. that'll be fairly visible. The whole leg's going to need a repaint anyway on the back. Probably doing it in the middle of a storm is probably not the best idea, so I'll have to wait for another day. But I mean, that patch, if I could get it off, I probably wouldn't need it now. But yeah, that's a lot flatter. There's a bit of a dip in, which isn't a problem, but overall there's no raised areas coming up. So I think it's worked. So I'm going to give it a quick sand with that. Put that back on and tighten it up and see how wobbly it is, and then I'll come back to you. Alright, so very quick update. I've sanded this down and I went to use the squadron putty, and the bottom splurged out rather than coming out the top. That's why it looks like there's a lot more putty on there than there should be, so I'm going to have to leave this to dry and then re-sand it, because I was going to end up with high spots again. But it has filled in some of the gaps, and as I said, it's going to be respraying on the back anyway. So I'm going to have to wait a while now. So that where I used, no, I'm not using the heat gun, that's silly. Just got to leave it to dry now, otherwise it's going to end up sticking. Alright, see you in a bit. Right, putty's dry. I've given it a quick sand, and you can hear the storm's getting worse. So it's now smooth again, or smoothish again. That's still quite bumpy. Yeah, you can hear the storm hitting the garage door. So it's still quite bumpy there, but it's bumping down. So the last thing to do now is try putting that on. So scrap that idea. Before I put that back on, I'm going to put some 2-part epoxy resin in there, although, God, that looks dirty, doesn't it? Although I've put loads of plasti weld in there, I think I'm going to double strengthen the joins with the epoxy resin, just to make doubly sure, and then we'll put the hub on. Right, so I'll just put a load of that in here. You can see where it's put in. I've used a lot. I've slopped it on quite thickly deliberately. They are using a lolly stick, but try to push it up into the gaps as far as possible, and around the edges where the ribs join the back skin. So yeah, I'm just going to let this dry now, and then we'll finally try putting that back on. Right, so the resin's more or less dry. It's a tiny bit sticky, but it's dry enough for me to be able to put this back on. So this is on. I haven't screwed it down yet on the other side, but as you can see, it's rocking a tiny bit, but I think that's mainly because it's not clamped down as such by the screws. Looking around the edges, although to be honest, the silver casts a shadow, it looks a lot better than it did before. So I'll put the screws back on, and then we'll see how it looks connected back up to R2. Yeah, but I'm hopeful so far. Right, bolts are on, they just need tightening up, and yeah, that should crush that back in. That should line that up nicely. So I'll keep going and we'll see. Okay, bolts are on, and I can already tell that is a lot better. There's no play there at all. It does feel like there's a bit of a gap, but I think that's mainly because there's now that extra patch I put on there before. So that depth, that gap looks to be about the same thickness as the patch that was on there before. However, it's not rocking, so they're done up as tight as I dare, because I don't. This is bowed in slightly from over the years of tightening up that side, and while that doesn't make a difference being attached to the side of R2, I don't want to break that. You know, I've done pretty well so far in fixing it. So I think I'll put the horseshoe. Should I put the horseshoe back on, or should I just? I think we'll put the leg back on. I can always put the horseshoe on situ. So let's put the leg back on and let's see how it looks. Right, so the leg is on. It's not bolted in yet, but it's on, and that gap's still there. I'm not worried because that is no worse than that gap. And yes, there's a bit of play. That's because R2 naturally wobbles, but the leg itself, I was having a massive sort of wobble at that point. That seems to have gone. So now all I need to do is just put the wing nuts on those 4 screws. So it looks like that, and then I'm fairly happy that's fixed. I'm half wondering whether to go back and do the same on this leg. I don't think that's really necessary at the moment. The problem was this leg, but yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. So I'll tighten up the screws, put the horseshoe back on and the booster cover, and then we'll do a closing shot. Right, so the horseshoe's back on, booster's back on, put its head on. Just the last bit, the hub. And I always forget this bit's a bit stiff. Right, give me a second. Right, there we go. Basically, this is slightly thicker than the original when this went in, so I really have to push it in. Anyway, so that's in. How's that feel, R2? Good. Do you think you feel like driving? Okay, fine. Well, maybe we'll try driving you later. Sure? Fair enough. Anyway, so that's R2's leg done. I might do future videos where I start looking at things like, you know, cracks in the foot shells that need fixing. Basically, R2 needs a bit of TLC, don't you? Yeah. So, well, yeah. Do you want to say bye, R2? Right. And we'll see you soon.